Hello, thinking about senior living options for yourself or a loved one, perhaps your parents or your grandparents. Today, we're exploring a community that offers a comprehensive range of care from independent living to specialized memory care and hospice. Joining me is Rob Rivera, Marketing and Admissions Coordinator for Sweet Living Senior Care. And this is Sherry, the Realtor, and welcome, Rob.
Hi. Yeah, so good to be here. Just quick note. So with Sweet Living, we're able to do enhanced assisted living and memory care with hospice and respite services as well. Unfortunately, our communities are not really built for independent living, but we're in a fairly, I would say, we have a lot of communities around that do offer independent living. So we're always
Mhm.
um, happy to help lead people to those communities if we're not a good fit for them.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because as I said,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, that's right. No, they're like you're like advanced assisted living. Why don't you explain that a little bit? Because I know you guys had a
Yeah,
special term for it.
absolutely. So we call it enhanced assisted living, but basically, um, our communities we're 32 suite, 20 for assisted living, 12 for memory care, and our communities are built with accessibility in mind for individuals that might have mobility issues. So doors are are wide enough for wheelchairs or power chairs. All of our cabinets and our sinks are built for um, people that might not be able to reach higher counter space and everything. So we're very aware that when people move to Sweet Living, um, there's some struggles that come, physically that they might not be able to fully. They won't be able to typically, use what we normally take for granted for in terms of um, counter space and accessibility to things. So we really try to hone in on creating an environment that not only feels comfortable and feels a place of your own, but also has those accessibility options in mind.
Absolutely. And having recently helped somebody purchase a home with who is
Mhm.
in a motorized wheelchair, that was really interesting
Yeah,
because of all the laws that were passed many years ago, still, even these homes that they built aren't terribly accessible. So it was great to go in your facility last week and see the wide doorways and the big entry into the bathroom to have lots of room to turn around and get in the shower and use the bathroom. So that was really
absolutely.
good to see. um,
Yeah,
well,
thank you.
let's back up a little bit then, and let's just talk a little bit about your background and what led you to work in senior living.
Yeah, so for myself, I've actually been in the healthcare industry for about 3 years, so I'm fairly green. I started with business office, and then eventually I started working at admissions. I really enjoyed interacting with family and helping them understand how to navigate the senior space. And um, about September of last year, I was offered a position here for Sweet Living in marketing. So, with this role, I'm able to utilize those skills in terms of connecting with family and empathizing
Mhm,
with a lot of the needs that are out there, and understanding that also the navigating the senior space and figuring out which community to go to and what type of payment plans and all of that is very confusing.
mhm,
um, and there's different tiers of it too. I mean, you have your traditional nursing home, long-term care, and you have where I currently work now, which is assisted living and memory care,
mhm,
and utilizes different forms of payments, different insurance, different waiver programs, and it's very difficult for people to kind of when they're kind of thrown into a situation where they have to figure out placement or have to, go down this road. It's very overwhelming. So
mhm,
my goal since I've started was to make the admission process and make the just general information of like what you're getting as seamless as possible and as easy
mhm,
to understand, just the initial steps, just so that people are not as intimidated when they are making this decision, because it's a scary decision that a lot of people have to make. It's not something that comes lightly. Um,
Right.
there's a lot of stigma that comes with, senior living over, years. And we're very fortunate that recently, our Sweet Living and other communities, we have really adapted and understand that residents are the sole focus, and their comfortability, or them being comfortable, their well-being, spiritual well-being as well, is really
Mhm.
important. So we want to create a space for them where not only is it their home, but it's also a place that they feel like we work for them and we respect them and honor them.
Absolutely. That reminds me of a conversation we had there about the activities that you have for people and how you've got 18 communities across the
Yep.
Twin Cities metro area, and they each seem to have their own personality based
Yes.
on the residents. And you take a look at who is living there and cater to them. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So with Sweet Living, we are very focused on personalized approach. Since we are a smaller community, we're able to adapt and kind of change the ways that we would approach our residents here with activities. I use the example that when you go to our Ramsey community, um, we have an activities director over there who has a musical background and
Mhm.
performs for our residents. And our residents are really into engaging with lively music and lively games and everything. And um, we really try to hit that niche and just make sure that we're consistently offering those activities for them,
Mhm.
while other
Mhm.
communities might be a little bit more quiet. Some people tend to stay in their rooms more often, but want to engage, but not engage in loud noises or anything. So,
Mhm.
some communities would rather play game like board games or card games, or we'll have movie nights and everything, and cocktail social hours. So, um, we really try to make it a point to understand what our residents need and the type of activities they would like to participate in, and just go make a whole calendar off of that.
Mhm.
We'll ask questions. We'll see what works. We see what doesn't, and we're willing to change and adapt. That's what's great about having smaller communities, that we can make those little changes on the fly. Rather, if you
Mhm.
have a bigger community, it's a little bit more complicated to kind of change your I would say activity curriculum for that month. So
Right. And you even mentioned how with the food, if you serve a meal and they're kind of gonna all go, I don't know about
yep.
that. You just take it off the menu for the future because now you find something that they want to eat.
Absolutely. Yep. Same goes for food. And, food is the heart and soul of every home and everywhere you go. So we always make it a point to make sure that our culinary directors are, not only are great cooks, but they're also very versatile in terms of what the residents would like or what they need.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
um, similar to our activities, we like to gauge and see what type of foods people like, what type of foods they don't like, and create a
Mhm.
menu off of that. Let's say if one day we'll have 90% of our residents really like a meal, but one resident doesn't. We're able to adapt and change, and we can either offer a soup or a sandwich or a salad or a chef's choice. So if they want to cook a hamburger,
Mm.
hot dog, um, maybe reheat some food that we've had before, but usually there's always something available for people. So we don't want to, you know, ex- we're very against what's the word? I'm drawing a blank here. Excluding people
That's good.
and what they need. So
And they need their nutrition, so you want to feed
absolutely.
them something they're willing to eat. Unlike at home growing up where you had to eat the liver and onions
Oh
if you
gosh, yeah,
wanted to eat anything that night. Oh,
yeah,
yeah, that was pain of growing up. So,
absolutely.
let's talk about your favorite parts about being the marketing and admissions coordinator for Sweet Living.
I love getting a chance to meet people, and learn about their background, and also see I think, and like I mentioned before, I think the biggest thing for me was when I got into this role, I really wanted to focus on making the process as easy as possible for people coming to our communities.
Mhm.
So, and also connecting with the communities and giving back to them. So, being a resource for people, I think is something that I really love, and being able to provide information to kind of help them on their way. So, regardless if they decide to choose sweet living or not, they actually have um, knowledge to know how to navigate the senior space. In terms outside of or other aspects of marketing that I really enjoy is connecting with people and
Mhm.
um, meeting. One of the big things for me that I like to do is connect with local community sales people and marketing directors and participate in different networking groups and get to learn the senior space in the communities that we're in. And
Mhm.
what I love too is that since our communities are a bit more unique, we're able to provide services that maybe they might not be able to provide and vice versa. So it's really
Right.
easy for us to help refer to other people and vice versa. I mean,
Absolutely.
we're a smaller community. We can take higher needs and more clinically demanding individuals,
Mhm.
and that is really helpful for some communities that might not be able to handle those cares. So
Right.
um we're definitely in a very fortunate position where it's I wouldn't necessarily call other communities our competitors, but more I would call them our partners. So
Yeah, there's definitely can be a progression. Individually, some people start more at the beginning and then they work their way down. Some go faster and skip some stages. But
yeah.
I can definitely see where someone's been in maybe independent living, then some assisted living, and oh, now
Mhm.
they need advanced assisted living, and they can come over to your spot.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's the thing is, we try to just be as transparent as possible with people as well, so they're aware of exactly the type
Hmm.
of services that we offer, the
Hmm.
cost that comes with it. Um, fortunately for us, we're able to, outside of just private pay, we're able to accept elderly waiver,
Oh,
the caddy waiver, and some communities, not all of them, can accept GRH/housing support as a supplement for paying for your monthly rent.
okay. That's good. That's helpful to know.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk about the different types of care that you've got, and how you meet the needs of the people in each of those sections.
Yes. So, for instance, with our assisted living, um, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I would say those type of cares are mainly suited for individuals that probably won't be able to take care of themselves anymore, and they're a risk could be a risk. And then you know or just as an example, if let's say if someone's living at home
Mhm.
and their family's a caregiver, or they hire home health care and it's to the point where we don't we're not going to be able to take care of this individual, they need to find a place to go. And what's fortunate for us is that we can properly house people that are struggling with those different situations, and we can provide services that not only um, will take care of them and can you know just be there when they need it with those 24-hour on-site
Mhm.
care, but also allow people to still have that sense of dignity that they want. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how our assisted living side works as well. And the other thing too is with sweet living, and we're a smaller community, we can also, because we have the memory care, dementia gets brought up, and dementia is kind of a broad scope of
Yeah.
different types. So there are people in the assisted living side that might have early onset dementia, and
Okay.
we're trained to how to communicate and navigate. with people that have that. And if it ever becomes a situation where, they might need more one-to-one, and, it could be something where they could be maybe a risk to themselves if they're not careful. We
Hmm.
have a memory care space that is a secured um, unit that
Okay.
looks very similar to the assisted living side, and but you have um, a little bit more eyes on our residents over there, and just making sure
Hmm.
that they're properly taken care of. So, that being said, when it comes to activities and meals and everything, we always try to bring both memory care and assisted living together. We
Okay.
never try to, separate the two if we don't have to. The only time that will happen is if someone doesn't do well in larger groups and probably needs a quieter space. But we're pretty fortunate that a lot of our communities are able to both coincide assisted living and memory care for a lot of our activities and
Oh, cool.
everything. So
That's cool to keep them
I hope
all
that answers
active.
your question. I know that was a little long-winded there, so
No, that's okay. And I saw something about in the mission of spiritual care too. Can you
yes,
tell me about that?
absolutely. So we have a pastor, his name is Pastor John. He visits all of our communities typically twice a month and does a sermon for our residents. What's really awesome about Pastor John is that he can do group settings, but he can
Mhm.
also, if family wants to reach out to them, and, like, let's say if it's someone in memory care that doesn't do well in larger groups, but, their faith is really important to them, he can do
Mhm.
individualized sermons for people or just talk with
Oh,
them and have a connection that way.
okay.
Um, the other thing that's great too is, a lot of our demographic outside of the Twin Cities or in the suburb of the Twin Cities are usually Lutheran, Catholic background.
Okay.
And Pastor John comes from Lutheran service, but in some of our inner city communities, you have people with different religious backgrounds. You have
Mhm.
Muslims, you have people who practice Judaism, and we want to be open to people with all different backgrounds, and we want to make sure we're inclusive with their spiritual needs. So we'll
Okay.
find services for them that will help them and be connected that way, and don't ever try to like I said before, try to sideline anyone based on their
Yeah.
religious views. So
Yeah, that's good. Are you able to tap into, like, for example, a lot of churches and worship places of worship do the live streaming through YouTube and things nowadays? Is
yep,
that one of the things you can tap into?
we can do that, and that, like, again, that would
Mhm.
tie to how some of our community activity directors, how they want to participate with some of our residents if that's what they need.
Mhm.
um so I have seen communities that usually tie to live recordings for churches. um but typically when it comes to like in-person needs and everything, we'll have Pastor John help with that, and then we'll also help coordinate local church to do some missionary work here as
Oh,
well.
okay.
So
That's good. That's good. I love it. So
yep.
how about an opportunity, how do you like help the residents stay mentally and physically engaged?
So with our activities and just with having caregivers, I mean, I think one of the big things as well is, families having accessibility coming to and from the communities here.
Mhm.
Um, our units are typically locked both all around, but if someone were to move in here and family lives close, they'll be able to have access to come in whenever. We don't have a curfew. And
Okay.
sometimes outside of just the services that we provide, sometimes they just need familiar faces to be with them,
Mhm.
especially when people move in here and they're transitioning from like their old you know from their home life to living in suite
Mhm.
living. So having family be available, letting them know a lot of the events that we do, and having them participate along with the resident has been really huge, and just making sure that our residents feel engaged and feel good and everything. And I think the other thing too, um, what I love about a smaller community is that a lot of our caregivers and our housing directors, since, ratio speaking, we're typically 1 to 6,
Okay.
one resident to 6 caregivers. We
Hmm.
get to know the residents very, very well.
Yeah.
So I think, some places might be a little bit too big for people, and
Okay.
they're the the cons that come with that is that you might not get to know, or the people that work there might not get to know people because they have so many residents they have to take care of.
Hmm.
While over here is that, we have a tight knit group of leadership and caregivers that are on site to just be available for them, get to know them, know their history, and
Hmm.
something that really strive for here is to create like a family like environment. So
Okay.
we always try to do that as well for our residents.
Okay. That's wonderful. Um, let's see. How about any transportation services or assistance with errands, or is that not part of living there? Everything just comes to them. Talk about that.
Yeah, so with transportation
Mhm.
services, we don't have a bus that we use, but what we do allow is that sometimes we'll have an activities director. Shakopee is a good example. They're right next to the casino, and
Mm.
some residents love to kind of go out there and have a good time. So we'll
Hmm.
coordinate a bus to take the residents to go out there and spend some time with them and everything. And then I know before we also took some residents out to the zoo. Um,
Okay.
but when it comes to transportation, specifically in our community, it's a little bit complicated just due to the fact that with certain mobility issues, the
Right.
transportation services outside of Metro Mobility, um, there's not a lot of services out there that can accommodate to take people in and out. So,
Right.
we always try to bring people to us, try to bring events to us. If we can bring a petting zoo, like if we can get connected with a local farmer, bring a petting zoo over here,
Okay.
or um, we had I'm thinking Forest Lake, the dance team connected with the community, and we had
Oh,
the
fun.
dance team to come by and do a little help with the residents, and then do
Hmm.
a cheer for them, and that was really
Hmm.
awesome. So yeah, I mean, that is something that unfortunately we don't have your typical transportation service, but we try to find ways to have the residents feel engaged. To If they want to go out of the community, they're able to. Families also more than okay with bringing them out of the community and everything, and if they want to spend like a couple days at home for like a holiday event, or
Hmm.
just be with family, I mean, that's something we always are okay with and we accept. So
Okay.
we
Well,
don't
that
have.
makes sense
Yeah,
because your residents need additional care.
yeah,
That it's just not a matter of pulling up any old bus and off they go. So do you
exactly.
bring
Yeah,
in like hairstylists to cut their hair and
yep,
other things like that?
yeah.
Okay.
So we have a beautician that comes to our communities twice a month as well, and
Okay.
yeah, so residents are able to ahead of time, schedule a haircut. So for men, if they want
Hmm.
to, your typical haircut or beard trim, or for women if they want to get their hairstyle, and we could
Okay.
do manicures, pedicures, all of that. So that's
Oh,
all
very
included
good.
with the beautician coming and visiting our residents.
Okay, that's great. Um, any like real life fun stories that have touched your heart in particular that you can talk about?
Yeah, we have, and I'm trying not to name names here, but
Hmm.
we do have a resident in Shakopee who is one of the most incredible people that I've met in a long time. Um, he used to be a pilot for many years, and eventually had an accident,
Oh,
um, which left him with mobility issues and some communication issues and everything. But he is one of the sharpest, funniest people you'll ever meet.
really?
He has a way to he has a unique way of communicating, but he loves to tell people his story. So people are like, wow, this man used to be a sheriff and a pilot.
Mm.
So he has a really rich history. Um, and yeah, I mean, a couple weeks ago we had an event in Shakopee, an open house event, and he wanted to come by and tell his story. And I think he
Okay.
I think just to kind of answer your question there, I think it's just getting to know the residents in that kind of way. And I know that it's not something huge, but it means a lot to me that there's people with different backgrounds and walks of life. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you're not really sure where the people have come from, or the struggles and the
Right.
successes that they've gone through. But everyone deserves um an attention and focus and care that um that they need. I just think a lot of our residents and seniors have just lived a very long life, and
Hmm.
we want to give back to them and make sure that they feel respected. So
Yeah. No, that's great. What advice would you give to families who are considering senior living options for a loved one?
check in with senior linkage line,
Okay.
and I would learn two things. Okay, so
Mhm.
I think one of the most important aspects of checking with senior linkage line is that you'll know if the finances that are coming in, because it would be the finances of your loved one, or maybe
Mhm.
if you're going for yourself. um Senior living is really expensive, and
Mhm.
sometimes when you're not informed of the resources that you have around you, you're going to feel pressured to just go in and spend all of your money, and then you find yourself in a position where maybe you're not able to afford where you live. And
Mhm.
legally, places can't kick you out, but they will need to put in a notice, and you'll have to start finding
Okay.
um, different places to live. So I think reaching out to senior linkage line, seeing if you need to sign up for a waiver or not, getting connected with your local county caseworker. Um, that is something I think would save a lot of people time and
Okay.
and headache to kind of just figure that piece out. Um, the
And so
other
for
piece,
people who, sorry, for people who don't know what senior linkage line is that like a government program or what is that?
yes. So it's a local program from the Minnesota Department of Health. You can just
Okay.
go online and look up senior linkage line, and there's going to be multiple opportunity. There's going to be a number that you can call directly, and you'll get connected to an agent that you can just kind of explain your situation, and then they'll transfer you to the
Mhm.
right people.
Okay.
Or you'll going on the website page, you can see different services that would apply best for you in your situation. Um, so it's a really good resource to kind of get to know where do I stand in this senior living space, and what do I
Mhm.
have, and what are my options. I think the other thing too, and this is kind of a little off subject from the finances, but just more speaking directly from experiences, the moving process is very difficult.
Okay.
Um, and it's easier said than done, but I think some people, or I would say the adult children or the influencers, can feel a bit overwhelmed. And
Mhm.
I would just suggest, patience for the resident. This is not
Mhm.
an easy, or potential resident, or someone
Mhm.
that you're looking to help move. This is
Mhm.
not easy for them. They
Right.
lived a whole life that um they were their own person, and now they're in a position where they need help for things that you normally don't want to ask help
Right.
for.
Right.
So I think just patience, empathy, and just n- know that if any situation, like situations occur where the transition process is a bit harder for people, I would say the answer is not to try to pick up and then leave immediately, but is to just try to help them adapt, try to help them understand, or just listen, just listen
Mm,
to what they have to say. And I think
mhm.
that can go a long way to kind of help with the struggles that come with, going to a new place, whether it be a sweet living or any other community out there. I think the transition process is really difficult and can be really overwhelming for all family. So,
Right.
just patience, empathy, that is something that I would also strongly suggest.
Absolutely. And that whole downsizing from
Yeah,
living in that home for 50 years maybe, and all these memories, and you raised your children there, and you've got that precious tea kettle, and it's hard. It's
it
really
is.
hard for people to let go. And so having that empathy is really helpful, and
Yeah.
letting them tell their stories. I That's all I'll say on that. I'm going to start crying. So I won't do
It's
that.
okay.
So any last thoughts that you had that you wanted to close out with?
Yeah. I think we're very happy. I mean, we have 18 communities. Our Maple Grove is the newest one that we've opened back in
Mhm,
May. But if you're interested in learning more about our community, feel free to come by and visit, regardless
mhm,
if this is something that you're looking for right now or in the future. If you're just curious, we're always open to help people kind of understand, like I said, the senior living space, and get them to know more about our communities and what we have to offer. And if we're not a good fit for you, you might know someone that is a good fit. And I think that's the thing
mhm,
is, you know when I talk about giving back is, just ha- offering resources to people that probably don't really know it's out there yet. So
mhm.
we just want to have our doors open and be available for people to, learn more about sweet living.
Absolutely. Well, that's wonderful. So I'm going to close out with a wonderful comment a friend of mine made on my post when I visited your open house last week. And my friend Carla had to say, "These are my peeps. They've been so helpful with my friend Sharon. Great place, highly recommended." So, and coming from Carla, she would only tell the truth. And so that's really good feedback for the suites that you have. So thank
I
you
love
so
it.
much for visiting with me this afternoon. And I'll make
Yeah.
sure that people have your contact information in the show notes. And have a great afternoon. Thank you. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you so much. Bye bye.